And we are live, guys. Hi, guys.
Hello.
And I'm just waiting for it to go live over here where everyone else can see us so that I can mute it. But wow. So our special guest today, if you couldn't gather, is Cortney.
Hello.
Oh, so this is going to be a long one. So buckle up, guys. I hope you have a drink. One other thing I wanted to say really quick. We have people that are lined up for a couple now. Actually, another one that we have to reach out to. Tangi, I reached out to you. I think we're probably going to be, I got to get a hold of you as far as a date. But you do not have to have a channel. You don't have to be a content creator to be on here and tell your story. We want people to be able to tell their stories and feel validated in their stories. So that's why we're doing this. And also because we can relate to each other, you know? So, Cortney?
Also, can I just add a small disclaimer? Because I am talking about personal experiences related to mental illness. And this is my experience and my opinions on my own journey with that. I am by no means saying that, someone else should not get treatment if they feel the need to do so. So,
Right. Okay. Tangi, hi, sweetie. Hi, Deanne. Okay. So, your earliest memories of anything. And I want everyone also to understand this is also not just about experiences that are what others might say like ghosts or spirits. This is interactions with like cryptids. This is like spiritual realizations. This is contact with aliens experiences. This is dreams and how those dreams affected you, everything. It's the whole kit and caboodle. So, and because these are the things that shape us, especially when they're early childhood things, these are the things that start to shape us into who we are. So, all right.
yes.
Hi, Mom.
Hello. So my earliest memory would have to be one of two, of course, Amy, my imaginary friend that I know I've talked about her before, but that played a big role in this. And recently I found new information pertaining to that. So Amy was my childhood imaginary friend. And I believe her now to have been a daemon or a fae being, extraterrestrial. But my mother thought that she was a spirit. At first, she thought imaginary friend when she took me to the doctors to get me checked out just because of how intense it was. I would be up at like 2 a.m. reading to her or talking to her. And my mother would get up and watch me, and she couldn't see anything. But I'm having full conversations, and she even saw like pages of the books turn like by themselves and stuff. But she kind of dismissed it and took me to the doctor to get me checked, make sure nothing was wrong. And they're like, oh, it's just an imaginary friend. But then it got worse, or not really worse, but more intense in the way of I would hold her hand everywhere I went in the house. I was constantly playing with her and becoming obsessed with Amy. And I even made her make meals for her as well. Really intense. So now years later, actually just a couple weeks ago, hello, I found out through a regression session that I did with a friend that Amy was in fact the orbs I would play with as well. And she's been with me my whole life, kind of like as a guide. She's been there several times that I didn't realize or I had forgotten until I did the regression. And she lived in a tree in my yard, but the tree that I was perceiving It wasn't a tree. It was a ship. But my young eyes, I thought it was this tree, and it seemed kind of dead and like twisted. And I remember it vividly now after the regression. And there was like the holes in it, as it went up, but no leaves on it. I remember it scared me when I was a kid, the tree did. And I don't know why, but I knew Amy lived in it.
Wow.
And yeah, so that was really interesting. And then my second earliest memory, I was 3 years old when I was in my grandmother's arms and I watched my Uncle Dan and Grandpa Terry die. My Uncle Dan went in to go swimming at this place, this river, and they opened the dam. And he didn't know that they were opening the dam that day. So my grandfather jumped in to save him. And they both, unfortunately, passed away. I remember my grandma was holding me the whole time, but the way her eyes were frantically moving and running for help. And something happened that day that made me understand death, because that night my Uncle Dan had appeared to me and my Aunt Sherry was watching me while the family was getting all of that taken care of. I remember a ball coming down the stairs in the apartment she was watching me in, and I grabbed it and hollered, "Uncle Danny," and I ran up the stairs, and she followed me, and she picked me up in the bathroom, and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, Uncle Danny, he's here." And she said it really freaked her out, and when she turned to take me out of the bathroom, she seen him in the mirror.
Oh.
That's when I had a sense that death was sad and awful to the people around me. But I didn't perceive it that way, I think, because I was able to see him after death. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, why are they all sad? Can't they see him too? But yeah, so then I would see others. I remember my stepdad, he kind of raised me, so he's my dad. But when his mother had passed, and my Aunt Sherry, the lady that was watching me that night, I remember seeing her appear too in my yard. Yeah, she looked younger. They always come back looking younger, always. And then, my next memory after that, I remember the spirit of my dog. It was in that same house because we moved around a lot. And I'm just kind of giving y'all little snippets of like different experiences that I was trying to think I had so early. I had a dog named Ben. He was a lab, and he was just, I loved this dog. And in that same house where my Nana had appeared in the yard, I was playing outside and seeing his spirit come up to me. And I went, "Oh no, Ben." And I had to be about 10, I think. And I said, "Well, show me where you're at." And I followed him into the woods, and it was quite deep into the woods. And he took me to his body, and I remember trying to bury him, but I didn't have nothing to bury him with. But that was quite interesting too. I'd forgotten about that till I sat today and really like thought about these interesting things I experienced that really, it was so difficult because when I would try to tell any grown-ups around me, or if I expressed anything I saw, I was odd or weird, or it was my imagination. And then as I got a little older in a new house is when I started seeing the shadows a lot and getting plagued with these negative entities. I have a little sketch here. I didn't sit and completely like do it all perfect, but just to give the audience an idea.
I'm going to make you larger so people can see, okay?
So this would be the doorway, and from my point of view on our bed, I had 2 doors in the room, and it would knock every night, and I didn't catch on at first. I thought it was my sister messing with me, but every time I would answer it, she'd be asleep, and then my blankets would get pulled off of me, and I would look up and see this figure. And he was so tall, so huge and broad. And then I would get scratches and bruises. I can't quite remember. It was almost like he was standing there and not touching me, but I was somehow being attacked by him. So it's hard to make sense of what that actually was. But I also remember going into my sister's room. I would get so scared. I would just run in there. And I remember going, Sissy, it's here again. And she got up frantic because she seen him too. She knew I wasn't bullshitting. And we were kind of huddled on the bed. And that's what I saw in this picture. I drew it from that point of view from my sister and I, because I told her it's coming, it's following me, it's coming. And we hugged. And that's when we had seen that.
Let me stop you just for a second, sweetheart. Let me ask you about this particular shadow, the shadow man.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel that he was negative, or was it because you were in such a state of fear? What do you think it was? Do you think it was a negative? Looking back.
Looking back now to then, I'm open to the idea that it maybe not. It could have been either way. I just don't understand the reasons for like the marks. So I wasn't sure if it's like a PK shadow that I created in my sister from all of our trauma.
When you say PK, do you mean poltergeist?
Psychokinetic entity.
Okay.
It's fragments of consciousness we try to release with our negative traumatic experiences, and it creates this thought form.
That's probably the same thing as a poltergeist, right? Or maybe
Yeah,
it was
in
a
and
poltergeist
around.
stronger
Could
or
be
less
a
pregnant?
Yeah, there's some similarities and some differences in them, but you could kind of categorize them as the same. Some of
Okay.
these are just so dark that it accumulates, like, excuse me. Like, for example, I drew this too, because I see this frequently, especially in people's houses, if there's a lot of like chaos or just a lot going on in the family, traumas or fighting or whatever it may be. I see fragments of energy because we're always putting off this energy. So it'll fragment and accumulate from every energy in that house and form up in the shadows and manifest into a full entity. And that's usually what the case is we don't realize we're kind of doing this to ourselves when we are being attacked by these negative beings, from how I understand it, at least, and from my experience. So this can form and feed off of like trauma and things that happen and kind of create like your shadow rising in your face. I think it could have been that, or it could have been something else. It had stopped after. That's kind of what drove me to my first experience into the hospital. When I started seeing the shadow being, then I started seeing more and more shadows. And this was the same house. I used to think that my sister would lie to my mom to get me in trouble, She would go, "Oh, Cortney snuck out. She wasn't in her bed last night." And we had a discussion recently, and come to find out, like, she would tell me, no, you really would not be in there. Like, you weren't in your bed. And I'm like, oh. So, yeah, it could be more to that. But
What do you think that more means? I can tell you, I think
extraterrestrial.
Either extraterrestrial or inner earth kind of stuff that you don't remember either.
Right. Yeah, I do feel more inner earth connection, especially with like recent experiences. Yes. So I remember. So let me talk about the church before we get into the hospital because this happened too, and this helped drive me there as well. Okay, so I was involved in a Pentecostal church. I really loved it. The people there were great, you know. I felt like I was kind of finding myself. But then when I started getting plagued with a lot of these experiences, and you know, the adults around me kind of couldn't help me. They didn't believe it. And I started seeking like that support from the church because, you know, the adults around me, I was just like, no one believes me and I don't know what to do. Yeah.
Me too.
Me too.
Me too.
And
Me three, I mean.
so I had talked to some of the pastors there and told them about things that were plaguing me, things I saw daily, things I would see with other people or even sense. And I mean private things. I can walk by someone on the street and sense some of their darkest secrets, and I keep it to myself. It's not my business, but it's just, I think I was around 13, 14-ish, something like that. Yeah. So they told me that I had possession issues and that it was evil to use the abilities I had. And my whole question was, then why do I have them? And their answer was, you know, evil spirits, you're being plagued, so we got to do this little exorcism for you. And they had put me in the baptism tub. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, I told you, just really quick, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My mom was left-handed. They tied her hand behind her back. We forgot to mention that during hers because they said that being left-handed was a sign of whatever, right?
Yeah.
Evil or the devil or whatever, and forced her to become a right-handed person. Sorry. That's the craziness. That's crazy, right?
Yeah, it is. I remember them making me change into a white gown. I had nothing under it. So I was like nervous about that too. Because they said I had to like clean the whole body and the spirit. And I had a group of them all standing around the tub and they were chanting in like tongues and saying like, leave her. And now as they were doing this, I'm like petrified. I remember I'm like hugging myself and the water's cold. And I'm just like thinking, well, what's supposed to be happening? 'Cause I don't feel any different. And then on top of that, I started seeing shadows amongst them that frightened me. And I remember shutting my eyes, like I didn't want to look at them. And then they had like dunked me under the water and like they put their hand on my face, dipped me under backwards and pulled me out. And then said like, okay, like you're good. Let us know what happens. But it didn't do anything. And I went to the next service, and this was the last service I went to. This man I had never seen there before, and I'd been in that church for a while before this had happened. And he sat down next to me, and he's looking at me, and I'm just like, yeah, you know, like, hi. And he goes, hi, I'm Dave. I'm like, hi. And he goes, so what's up, you know? And I heard about the whole like ceremony thing and whatever. And he's like, you have a gift. You're not evil. And then he was like, use it. And then he told me he was actually satanic. I did not know what real Satanism was at that time because I was still quite young. So I was kind of like, you know. But now looking back at that, I was like, yeah, they were looking out for me. They were trying to direct me. So yeah, that after that, things just started getting intense. I had no idea how to close off these abilities. Daily, I was seeing different entities that, I mean, there's like these type, and there's so many. I'm just drawing like a few of them. I'll get to her later. Hold on. And I'll get to that one later. So yeah, it's just I'll explain this one soon, guys, but I mean, just all these different things that I had seen along the way. And I started to think I was crazy. I didn't want to live anymore. I was like, I can't deal with this. I don't know what's going on. And I thought I was either evil or crazy. So
And you were made to believe that.
Mhm.
yeah. Well, what was worse was institutions modernly, they've gotten a lot better, but also a lot of abuse and stuff still goes on in those places. Oh, yeah. So I got really, really depressed and attempted on my life, and my mother found me. And I'm sorry, guys, this is kind of the first time I'm actually talking about this. So I'm
Thank
nervous.
you for sharing with us, sweetheart.
Yes,
Well,
definitely.
the problem is I don't want other young kids that have these experiences to have to go through what I did. I think people should study and look more into that to help our youth who are experiencing these things in a more productive way.
I think you're right. And I want to intercept real quick because when you said that, it made me think that, and I don't want to say that the whole church is bad because some of the people that are within it that are religious are good people. I
Yes.
just think that if the agenda is to keep certain people with gifts thinking that they are crazy on purpose, because then no one else is going to listen to them. And that is so unfortunate to me. I feel like that's the major agenda right there is if they're shutting you guys up, they're doing what they are supposed to do. And so many other people just don't see that because our dad was one of them who totally went wacko crazy. Couldn't tell you exactly if it was because of the church or not, but who knows why he was, getting those messages. I know it's a whole other story, but I just think that it's important to realize exactly what you're saying right there.
I
Because
don't think it was all the church. I think it was a combination of many things. And that's why it's so important that we
Right.
talk about these things.
Right. Because you're not crazy.
Right. I mean, like Carla, like you've said many times, crazy is as crazy does.
Yes.
Right.
And so it is very important to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
Well, when I had attempted that and they asked me the reason why in the hospital, I had told them, I'm just tired of dealing with things. I'm tired of seeing them. And they're like, seeing who? And I would tell them. So I got sent, one for attempting my life and two for seeing things. And they kept me in there for a while, a few months at this youth asylum. At first, it was hard because I would get, sorry.
It's okay.
This is around the time when I would feel death experiences or the spirits would be entering and maneuvering through me. My demeanor, personality would change. I didn't understand that as a medium that you got to learn to like control all that, close it off. It was just out of control.
So like spiritual boundaries kind of thing?
Right. And I had no idea what was happening. And it was like, it was me, I'm conscious, I'm aware, but also there's something else in here using my body as like a vehicle. And they had strapped me down to a bed in a padded room for days. And that made it worse because I was secluded. And I kept seeing who I described as Lucifer. He had appeared in my room just before I went in. Beautiful, beautiful. And at the time, I was afraid of him. And in the hospital when I was strapped, he would appear off and on, and I remember talking to him, but he never tried to hurt me. When I finally got out of there, the padded room, they were drugging me up so bad that I would be sitting in the lobby and I would urinate or drool on myself, and they would pull me into the room, drag me, and just throw you on the bed and leave you there. And the meds never helped. All it did was lock me into that state. And I remember shortly before I finally got out of there, I was in the lobby and I'm looking around because I started getting sneaky and not taking the meds. I'd hide them like under and then or in my gums, and I would sit there in the lobby just like a little bit before I left and got out. And I remember looking at really severe patients who were ill, obviously ill. I mean, the things they were doing and left unattended. And I'm looking around and I remember I just broke down.
I don't know if I'm the one experiencing this or they are.
Right. And I broke down
But,
because I said,
wow, that's strange.
I was like,
What's the matter, sis?
You guys just froze up on me.
We can see you fine. I can
Okay.
see you fine.
Okay. Something's going on in here.
Maybe get out. Sorry, Courtney. Maybe get out and come back.
Okay.
All right.
so, yeah, I remember looking around and I broke down. And at that moment, I was like, I'm not like that. I'm not. Why are they doing this? And when they went to do my diagnosis too, the psychologist couldn't really pinpoint a specific diagnosis. So they said, well, I'm just going to diagnose you with what, it's closest to. And they said bipolar with schizoaffective tendencies. And I went for years to therapy, different meds, thinking I'm nuts. And
So
no one had answers, so I turned to the occult.
I just want to say really quick, that first of all, I find that story so sad, and I am sorry for what you have been through. But this is why it is so important for people to see that these are not always. I'm not trying to diagnose here, but
Right.
as in retrospect, now as an adult who dealt with these things, everything that you see is not a psychological problem.
Hallelujah.
Right? There are other things at work here.
Exactly.
Yes. And the more people that actually talk about these things, the more help that can actually really get done about it and understanding, rather than just putting a label on it, popping a pill and saying, here you go.
Mm-hmm.
And that obviously did not help the problem. It made it worse because you did not feel like you were actually being able to reveal your truth of what was really happening. Right?
Yeah, and you're completely alone if somebody's doing that to you. You become isolated in your misery, and it's crap.
Yeah. That's what turned me to the occult. I'm like, everywhere else has like shunned me. But the occult says this is real. The occult validates my experiences. So it's really how I kind of found the occult and stuff. And then after years of taking different medication cocktails, they either made me worse or didn't help at all. Years of therapy, I've had some say you're not bipolar. Something else is going on here. Or I've had others say, oh, you're bipolar, but you have borderline personality as well. Let's give you these extra meds. And then I'd go get another opinion and it would be something else. So I'm going, okay. I just got so sick of it. I was like, it's time to embrace this. And that's when I got into doing house calls for people experiencing paranormal trouble. And I started like doing like little investigations with amateur paranormal investigating teams in the city. And then I started trying to put it to use, put it to practice. And
it's amazing to me that in psychology, that's how you were treated. Because who is the father of psychology?
Carl Jung.
Carl Jung. And I just was reading off a whole bunch of his quotes yesterday. One of them is that really struck true to me, and why what we are doing here and what other people, I'm seeing other people doing as well, is having people tell their stories and being in a community of people where they can trust to tell their stories without being ridiculed or what have you. Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, meaning around other people, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, or from holding certain views which others find inadmissible. And that real evil comes from people not being able to tell their stories. Okay. So I'm sorry. I just I needed to intercept that really quick.
I love that.
Continue, honey.
Oh, thank you.
Carl Jung was responsible also for incorporating palmistry as part of the science that goes along with identifying certain characteristics in the hands that have to do with diagnosing a patient. So yes, I'm sorry. So,
father of psychology, people. Father of psychology.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a bit about my investigations then. Get into some different stuff. That was kind of dark, sorry, but it's my story. And I think it's important because, man, that was rough, and yeah. So, all right, we'll start with one of the first things I did when I moved to Rome. My mother moved, it's her hometown and where I was born, but I was raised in Florida, and I followed her back there. And that was around probably 2012, 2013. I lived in, we
got some pictures for you guys. So you take over, honey, because you know which pictures are for what.
Okay. So I moved in this, that's not actually it, but it's close to there. It was a trailer park. And I'd started, oh, did something happen?
I'm here.
Okay. I had started seeing spirits in my own trailer, and it was things like I would see children running around, and my kids were seeing them as well. And then I had a dream of a woman burying her kids under that trailer in that dirt. She had killed them, and it was probably the way she was dressed. Maybe the 1800s, like early 1800s. And she had buried them under that trailer. And around the time that I was getting this in my own, friends that lived around in the trailer park started like complaining about just all this activity and weirdness going on. So I was going trailer to trailer to help them because they heard about what I do. And I was listening to all these experiences. And then finally I said, all right, you know what? I'm going to take some people with me. We're going to open up and I'm going to do like a walkthrough through those eyes. My spiritual sight is what I call it, in that trailer park. I walked to the entrance and I'm with a group of people. They were with me. They liked to like investigate paranormal stuff, but they weren't like an official team, but to us it was like we were the team. And I had opened up my sight and the entire trailer park was like plagued with spirits everywhere. And then I started walking through, and as I would turn my head in certain directions and look in certain areas, it would take me back to the past of what used to be there. I saw like a burning house where a farm was there. on the location of one of the trailers where one of the people complained. Yeah, there was an abusive alcoholic father there, and there were 6 kids, but the place had caught on fire. And that was one location of one trailer in that area. And then there were other things throughout it. So I told them, I don't want to name names, so I had told them that it had used to be a cemetery there, and the bodies were not moved. The cemetery was right next to the trailer park, this one. So over to like your right would be where the trailer park was, and that fence went all the way around. That I got more stories with that, so I wanted to show you guys, give you a bit of insight. So I walked to the middle of the trailer park during this, and to prove it to them, what I was seeing, I said, I want you to dig right here. It was like a circle loop throughout the trailer park, and in the middle was a wooded area. And I walked into that wooded area, and I said, dig here. They had ended up finding a bunch of busted up, very old tombstone pieces in that soil. And I told them the issue is when they moved the stones over, they didn't move the bodies. Like, you're literally on a graveyard. So what we can do is try to appease some of them.
Poltergeist.
Yeah, so I was trying to help, like, appease spirits, help others cross. That one was like chaos. So later with that same area, we continued to try to investigate this cemetery. Yeah, you saw that. So now back to this picture I told you guys I would explain later. Hold on.
Yeah, that is freaky, what you've seen.
Again, this night I went with the same team of friends, and they wanted to see what I would pick up in the cemetery. So I'm walking on the land of the cemetery. I have my sight open again. I'm trying to connect with it, feel the energy. And I had this one older lady spirit walking up, and she's going, have you seen my son? Have you seen my son? I gotta find my son. And then there were others, kind of in the same state of energy. And I thought that was weird because I'm like, you're a spirit, like you can do whatever. But then I had looked up and seen this creature in the graveyard. So it's like I would be there. And the others are spirits. Now, these are like energetic, almost like flames floating in the air. And then there were orbs, but he had tentacles that connected to these spirits. And he would move them around, almost like a merry-go-round around the cemetery. And his mouth, it had teeth going all up through it. And some of these fire-like energy things here, he would suck them in. So I had the worst feeling when I saw that. Like, I panicked, I freaked out, we ran out of the cemetery. Like, they didn't even question it. When they saw me hauling ass, they just followed. I was like, like, this is
What
way...
did you think that was?
I just call him the great parasite. To me, it felt like he was feeding off of what these spirits were worried about. Because in my experience with that older lady, I found it odd. Some do get lost, but I found it odd. She was just locked in this state and going, where's my son? I got to find my son. I mean, sometimes that happens if they don't realize they're dead and they're just, killed, or different things. It's complex, could happen. But it was just so weird to me. And then the other one seemed to be in a similar state, worried about something else. And it was almost like, I don't know if he was puppeteering them or if he was taking from them. I really, to this day...
what it made me think of? I'm sorry. You know what it makes me think of? I had seen a lady who had created, and I'm not going to mention who it is. She had talked about it on her channel, but she had created a servitor that actually ate the negative energy in order to survive, kind of thing, like a tulpa.
Mine
What
does
if that's what you were seeing there was something that actually ate the negativity? Do you think it was the negativity or actual people? I mean, their souls.
No, I think it was probably more so the negativity, like it was sucking that in.
Wow.
Yeah, my servitor is designed that way too, so it's very useful.
That just came to my mind when maybe, that was a creation.
It was like something out of Lovecraft, and the interesting thing about Lovecraft is, he had to kind of like make it fictional, but he said that these were ancient creatures and even deities in certain existences, and it made me wonder if that was one of them.
It almost seems like something that maybe keeps the balance a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I obviously it scared you really bad, and you just took off
it was
running.
huge. It was like I was this puny, miserable little thing, and it was this great big, I mean, huge in the sky, like taller than the trees around me, and these were giant like oak trees, and I'm going, what the fuck is that? Like, like I can't defeat you, man. Final boss, you win. Like,
I think you've been playing too many video games. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so later with my investigations, we'll do the Capitol Theater, and this is a certified haunted place now, but I want to tell you about my experience when I investigated it. So this is what the Rome Capitol Theater looks like now, and it's been there since like I think the 17 or 1800s, something like that. It's really old. And right there at the top, in the middle there, upon walking up, now I'm open and have my clear sight when I'm doing this. The first thing I saw was a man with clothes that looked like maybe from like the 1920s to 30s, and he had hung himself.
Oh, wow.
So that was the first thing I got. And then walking inside, so you see the balcony there. The entrance is underneath the balcony. So we're facing it from the stage where I was coming in on the side you're seeing now. I had walked by that balcony and seen somebody fall off of it and had died. I had also seen a spirit of a black cat wandering around, orbs. I heard organs, and also a woman on the stage who played the organ. And then later, all of my findings were confirmed true and what other people have found or experienced in there.
Wow.
And then in Rome, I mean, there's so much everywhere, but Rome really had a lot of old history and activity. There was this place I lived. Hold on, is this it? Okay. I had an apartment. This is a park in Rome where I'm from. I think it's Fort Stanwix, or something like that. And I lived right where I'd be taking the picture. But there was a tree there.
Carla, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Carla's almost like peeking around the side of it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Covering me.
It was just funny. Oh my God.
So I'm sitting on this tree, and a soldier walks up to me.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. I love it. And a soldier walks up to me, and at first I didn't even realize he was a spirit. I'm just reading and like, what's up, And he's like, hi, like nonchalant.
Wow.
And then it resonated when I looked at what he was wearing. I was like, that ain't from our time.
Oh.
And he goes, yes, I lie here. And I'm like, here? And he goes, yeah. And that is when immediately throughout this park, here's another one.
Wow, that's like really picturesque. A
Yeah.
picturesque park.
Throughout that entire park, this whole scene exploded around me, and I could see it tangibly with open eyes. It was like a projection of what he was showing me in my mind's eye. I heard drums. I heard like these flutes. I heard people yelling. I heard shots. I heard cannons.
Oh
And
my
then I felt him die. First, his leg had gotten blown off, and then he had gotten shot in the side and his lung. And I felt him choking. I was choking for a minute. And that's when I realized they can take me through their death experiences and I can feel what they felt. And then I go and do research on that place. It's
So
a big
the war-
landmark where the war happened.
Oh.
Wow.
And there's a lot of people that were left in unmarked graves there too.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
alrighty. And
But this was not just like some sort of imprint either, because I believe that happens. Like when something, I mean, this guy actually said that to you. So there was like some sort of intelligence behind that.
Yeah.
Which kind of shows me that you were a medium. You weren't just like picking up on energy.
Yes. Yes.
I'm like so excited. I'm like spilling my stuff. And
so I talked about that. I got a little bit of notes here, guys, because it was so much. I didn't want to like miss some things. Yeah, here's the war. Okay. So this was just an experience I had that I found interesting that I wanted to share. I had went to a concert and met Maria Brink. Again, another person. She's a famous rock star. Like, if you know In This Moment, I love the music. When I get there, she was very occultesque. She had these 3 women, and I loved it, with these masks that followed her everywhere. They even took the picture. Upon walking in here, I mean, it's obvious she was like pagan or, whatever.
oh yeah.
She put an oil on my hand, and then she like stops, and because she was going real fast with everyone, but blessing everyone with the oil on their hand. But when she had done mine, like she'd stopped and goes, "Oh, you have sight, don't you?" So I was like, interesting. So that's like several people out of the blue, occult related, that have come in and been like, hey. So yeah, I wanted to share that. And then now getting into the angel of death that I saw. Most of you do know I used to be an addict. I've been clean for several years now and going strong. So I had OD'd and saw the angel of death, or what I perceived to be the angel of death. And she had kissed me, asked me if I was ready and am I going. I told her no. And she had kissed me, and that is when I woke up in the hospital, in my mother's hospital, where she worked in ICU. She didn't expect it, but her daughter came in non-responsive. They were ready to incubate me. They had already Narcaned me a few times. I would open my eyes and then I would go back out. So I think I was kind of battling there, like, what do I want to go? Do I want to stay? But immediately when I opened my eyes and seen my mother's face, realizing she had just helped save my life and how scary that must have been. I didn't even realize I had done it to myself. It was just one of them times it was too much and I didn't realize. And I didn't even realize how bad the problem was until then. And then my next thought after my mom was, oh my God, my boys. Like, what would have happened? So I started my journey for sobriety, got my tattoo, just live in my clean date, and went with my boys and we did floating lanterns. And later on my spiritual journey, I found out that it was due to breaking a karmic cycle.
Wow.
I had found that I was Nancy Spungen in my most recent past life, and Chris was Sid Vicious. We actually, when we met for the first time in New York City, I got the picture here somewhere. Let me see.
You know, can I just stop you just for a second, sweetheart? Because I want to
Uh-huh.
ask you something.
Sure.
And you don't have to answer if you don't want to, because I know it's kind of private. And I already know this answer, but for other people, how was it that you became addicted? Where did it start? Did it start just a young kid playing with drugs and stuff like that? Or did
No.
it start in a different way?
It started in a different way. I had become bedbound for a couple years in that trailer park that I talked about. Actually, it wasn't long after those experiences. They couldn't really figure it out fully. They did, they were thinking RRMS or other things, and my body wouldn't work. Like I could not walk at all, like long distances. It got really bad. And they had started putting me on some really heavy painkillers, morphine along with Loratab, along with, other things. And back then they didn't really educate you. They would say, okay, you can become addicted if you abuse them. But I'm going, okay, so if I don't abuse them, then I'm good. Cool. I won't be an idiot. Well, actually, it only takes 2 weeks for this medication to start rewiring your brain, whether you're abusing it or not. And it rewires the part that says you have to eat, sleep, survive. So it's tricking you alchemically and making you think you need it to live. And then you don't even know it took you until you run out and you start getting sick.
And they won't prescribe you anymore after that, right?
Usually, yeah, they'll just drop you without a plan, without, anything. And then you're like, well, oh my God, because that sickness is the number one fear of any addict. It's awful, God awful. Now they did put me on Suboxone after that clean date, and they told me I was clean. Now this ties into the past life thing as well, and why it's spiritual and important. That Suboxone that they gave me, they told me, you're clean. It was in a treatment program and all, but they were prescribing it like a whole month and sending me home and whatever. I didn't realize until I had met Chris and came to Ireland, I got stuck. So I couldn't get my prescription.
This was the first time you came to Ireland, not this time.
Right. When I came to visit. I've just met him. And he wanted to bring me over to show me what it was like. And yeah, so lo and behold, we get knocked back at the airport because of things like Mr. T, I'm not going to say his name, did with customs and stuff. It was bizarre at the time. So we ended up being stuck for like a month here. And I got sick, and it was worse than what I was originally on. And they don't tell you that, because the physical symptoms last and are more intense. Like they last for months. Months. And it's about a month before you even start feeling a little better. And then, it was god awful. And he helped me through that. It was like this thing that seemed fated almost. And I started through regression figuring out why, and then remembering. I had memories, and then I knew who he was and who I was. And let me see if this is the picture. Yes. We went to the hotel the day we met. This isn't the hotel, but the Chelsea Hotel. And I remember pointing in the lobby because they were doing work on it. And I pointed, I said, the room used to be there. This used to be different. And they were like, you're right. That was their room. We tore it down. I was like, okay. Then I was like, we need to find the house you died in that life. Because for those of you who don't know, Sid and Nancy, they were drug addicts. It resulted in their demise, destroyed them in that life. And I said, we got to find where you went now. And he took me right to it.
First time being in New York, right?
Yes. Yeah. From Ireland. Found it. This is the picture where we were standing outside, and up to the right on the second floor, on the farthest window, that's where Sid had died. And I started getting so many memories. And not only did he beat it in this lifetime, but once I met him, we tackled it together and broke that karmic toxicity energy that, and for those wondering, no, he did not kill her. I have a birthmark in the place where she was stabbed, and it was a dealer that lived in that hotel, the Chelsea Hotel. There were so many people in and out of that room, and plus the cops were corrupt and looking to blame anything on, Sid, because they viewed him piece of crap, junkie, even though he called 911 and said he had no memory, it was just a big mishandling on media, the police's side, But yes, it was a dealer. I remember him. He had long brown hair. She was inquiring about more drugs, and he wanted favors in return, but she had the money, so she wasn't willing. And it ended up in a fight. She got physical with him first, but he ended up taking the knife from the bed, which belonged to Sid. He always played with knives, like a little obsession. And it was on the bed where he'd passed out. Finally passed out because he was coming down off everything we were partying and taking. And he had took that knife and got so irate, stabbed her. And I remember turning to the bathroom because it was in the entrance of the bathroom, and the bed was there and far off the windows, and then the entrance was by the bathroom. I remember there was actually 2 mattresses in the room, one laid on the floor too. I remember being stabbed at first, not realizing exactly, like it took a moment to register, turning into the bathroom and like holding on to the sink. And like I dropped, and I remember calling for him, but he was passed out. He didn't hear. And I couldn't move because of the pain. And he couldn't take it. They were blaming him. He suffered abuse in jail, and then they had a pact. That's true, but it isn't what you see in the public eye. There's a lot of crazy information or speculation about it, but they did say they didn't want to live without one another, so if one went, the other would too. And that's what he did. He got out, spent a week with everybody, and they're all like, he was so happy though, we don't get it. And I'm like, usually when someone comes to terms, if someone's depressed and then suddenly happy and cool and content, that's because they made a decision. So he had made that decision. And
wow.
Yeah, that's wow.
That is powerful.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
there's more past life stuff
memory.
too that she hasn't even talked about yet. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
But anybody that's also gotten her book, Destiny Bloodline Sagas, she also kind of talks about that in her character, the first time that she sees the other character and what that did to her. And that's like a real, I mean,
it was with him, it was odd because in this life, I know he's my twin flame. And what's interesting too, get this, guys, Sid was from the UK, so was Chris. Nancy was from New York.
Yep.
So was I.
Yeah.
Wow.
She died in 79, and she went to the UK and met him, and then he went back to New York with her. Now it's vice versa. He came to New York and met me. I came to the UK with him, and we broke that cycle.
Wow. Wow.
So, yeah, when I first met him, I got chills up my body. I was sweating, heart racing, and it was only his voice online, gaming. Between friends we both knew for years, but never crossed paths until that day. And it wasn't only me feeling it. He felt it too. And we were like both in shock, like, what is this? And that's what got him to friend me, was like, what is this? Why am I feeling this?
That is pretty powerful. Yeah. Yeah. You have other past life stuff too, and other family line stuff. I mean, I don't know what I know. I'm like on the,
we can talk about anything, because that's pretty much all I had like wrote down and wanted like to really get out. But there is so much more. I mean, this is a sliver of experiences. And
even
now,
our connection.
yes,
There's no connection.
because that's something I did want to say, and I would love to do another one with you guys just to share more of like our recent things, because yes, I still experience a lot of what we talked about, but come 2020 it enhanced and accelerated into actual ET beings. Now my DNA being activated, and what I feel turning me into the being I am, like dormant things that are inside of us, in my opinion, for some of us, are being activated. And it's, I kept telling Rachele too, I'm like, oh my God, it's, am I going nuts? Like, it sounds like a bad Supernatural episode or something. And, but it's really happening, and we aren't the only ones. And I got a whisper.
About a month ago.
Yeah, we were on the phone, Rachele and I, and a lot like Chris and I, the moment I had seen her on YouTube, she was like this beacon of light or hope, and I couldn't explain why, but she brought so much comfort. And I was new to YouTube, and real quickly tried to get to know her and like watch her channel, because I mean, you were just, I can't explain it, this light about you. I was so drawn.
Different. Everything you were into was like the opposite of what I was into, right? How strange is that? Because I felt the same thing to you on your channel. Yeah. So I had to say that.
Since we had like actually met like early 2020, I think, or just before, it might have been, we were going to do a collaboration together. You had invited me to do the Witchy Wisdom Wednesdays, and I started getting to know her. And then our spiritual experiences just kaboom, like this, gate for all of us. Like, and then it expanded even more to something I didn't believe was possible. And then the further we got along, up until about a month ago, we're on the phone, and I'd gotten a whisper about someone who had the miscarriage, but I wasn't sure who it was. And I'm going, who had the miscarriage, Rachele?
Well, at first you thought that you were supposed to be my sister.
Right.
And then it came out, you said you were supposed to be, or that I was your first choice or something like that.
Yeah.
And it came to realization that she was born right around the time I had a miscarriage. I was 17.
I heard a whisper tell me that. They said you were supposed, like, I was that one first, and then.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I got goosebumps. Immediately I knew she's like my third child. Or, well, actually like my first child. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe that,
I felt, and then when I met you too, Carla, it was like instant. Like, I'm like gravitating to you guys, because I'm like, I feel it in my soul. Like, it ain't just the signs we get, it ain't just the things we're experiencing. It's a
Mhm.
soul connection. I feel your guys' energy there. And we don't even have to be talking like throughout the day. We know how each other's feeling, what we're thinking, what emotions
Yeah.
are crossing us. It's incredible.
And something else that I need to mention, one of the things that also drew me to you when I first started watching your channel, beyond the content, which was at the time about Lucifer and about demons, and that was completely the opposite of where I was at, right? I'm like love and light, but I was like really intrigued because I grew up in the church, right? And these are the things that you don't even go there, right? So I was like, ooh. But because you remind me so much of Carla's middle daughter, Faith. And I told Carla, wow, she reminds me. And yeah, there's a resemblance there, but it's not that. It's the energy. Your energy reminds me so much of Faith that I was just like, I was
And
like
Faith
kind of
sees
taken
beings
back a little bit
like
by it.
that. And she's
Yeah.
seen them all the time when she was younger, but she was so afraid that she learned to block that out.
When I
And
had
it scares her now.
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, hon.
When I had met her in our Discord, our sisterhood, I got the sense, and I started, like, when I was seeing what she was putting and stuff, I got such a deep sense too with her. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like staring at a mirror or the younger me. Like,
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
felt that way.
Yeah.
And you're right on the money, because there's a lot of deep stuff going on with that kid. A lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
We'll have
we're
to
just like
do
finding things out along the way. But oh my gosh.
we'll have to do another, because I would like to get into the beings and like our more soul connection stuff, and also the Lucifer thing. I did want to say he seemed to have been there all along, off and on for me. And after establishing who and what they are and working with them, it's been more of a savior than the church. And I don't view them, as evil. They're just different beings that are ancient and operate different than us. They've had way more time to evolve than we have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, of course, you're going to be with us again, because beyond, yes, I want to talk with you again because there's so much more that people have no idea about. But
Right.
also because she's going to be doing this with us. That's another reason she was the second guest. Because there's nobody else. You guys are just like, I just love you guys. And, sharing these kind of experiences with like-minded people is everything.
Mm-hmm.
It is everything. It is so easy to be lonely in the world where you walk with other people that don't see things the same way as you. And when you tell them the things that you see, they look at you with these eyes like, is she crazy? Has she lost her mind? She's too just out of it. And you guys just get it. When most of you guys that are in here, you just get it. When we're talking in our chats, people are just like, oh my gosh, that's right. Let me tell you what happened. And we're all like, yes.
Like,
support each other.
and especially for what's coming that I want to talk about, because people are going to think I done lost the plot, or we have, because I believe that dormant DNA, these supernatural things they try to tell us are not real, are actually a part of us. It's just lost. It isn't awakened because of that. And right now, a lot of things are happening. A lot of things are activating in us. And I think as we ascend, we're going to start noticing these differences, because I have almost supernatural ability point. Like, it's
it is definitely increased.
Yes.
And the connections with people. While Cortney was writing her book, or Cortney will watch something, and the next day I'll tell her what my dream is. And I journal my dreams. So I'm writing them down. She's seeing it. She's going, oh my God, you're not going to believe what I just watched or what I just read or what I just wrote in my
Synchronicity.
book. That's that connection right there.
Yep.
So yeah, we're not crazy. They're saying we're not crazy. LOL, we're not.
No,
right.
it's like, anybody ever play Pokemon, that game?
Oh, I love Pokemon.
And where you know, people, you see it on your phone, but it's not really there.
Right.
That's what a lot of people are experiencing right now, and they think they're going crazy. No, it's because they're in a type of 4D right now, or they're in 4D, so they're seeing these things, but they're not fully ascended into 5D. So it's like, what is going on?
I watched a video last night about that. Like, I feel like that's the case. I'm already identifying as a freaking hybrid and an elven being.
Yes.
And I don't care who calls me crazy. When we get this out, y'all will understand why.
Exactly.
But I encourage you to actually look into the dimensions to understand, because I approach it with a spiritual mind and look at the science of it. And I watched one about the dimensions last night, and it's like these UFOs and how to explain why we can't see them and such. It's because you got a whole, all right. Oops. Here's a dimension, right? Here's you, like, perceiving them and how we perceive this world versus a 4D, 5D, higher dimensional entity popping into ours to observe. We can observe what's on this paper, right? The lower dimension to us. The 1D, 2D, we can observe that because it's below us. Right. So the higher ones can observe us.
Yes.
We can't observe them because it's beyond our dimension.
Right.
So we're ascending right now. Dimensions are starting to overlap. That's why you're seeing more UFOs. You're seeing more supernatural entities. You're seeing more cryptids. You're changing. You're discovering things. It is because of this. This is a very interesting time for us.
Well, I have a couple of questions for people. First of all, is anyone else seeing the static? The white noise static? I'm definitely seeing that. Okay. And I do not have to be asleep to see it. Is anyone else feeling almost like the floor is shifting underneath of you sometimes, depending on where you're at? And I mean, you can be on the ground and feel it. Okay. Is anyone else seeing pixelated air? Just seeing like little squirrelies and stuff like that all in the air. And you know that there's nothing wrong with your eyes. It's not your eyesight. It's not your blood pressure. It is, there's something else you're perceiving. Is anyone else seeing heat signatures?
Heat signatures and like the actual, something shifting. It's like I can feel energy shift.
Yes.
Foggy mind.
Whoa, what was that? Yeah.
Foggy mind. I can actually feel like shifting energy in my mind, like feel it. And then I will go deaf, or I will get ringing. When people are talking, their frequencies are affecting my ears and making static or buzzing noises. There's a lot.
That's happened.
The next time that you hear a ring in your ear, look at the clock. See if it's not a 333 or a 111 or 1111. Just do that. Synchronicities is a huge freaking thing. It's real.
They've been rapidly coming in daily for me. Like every time it's rapid synchronicity back to back, and I'm going, whoa. Like it's all accelerating.
Like
tunnel vision. That's a big one. I've had that.
That's another thing. Like seeing like sparks.
Yes.
Right?
Are you more emotional? Do you notice you're starting to purge? Are you purging things?
For me, that's all I did was cry. Anyone else feeling that?
And then so much shit my family talked about that wasn't like, it was just like we were literally just purging the last few days, almost as if the universe or a higher force is trying to get us ready, like dealing with this stuff, get it out. Yes.
Ooh.
I wanted to play this for you guys. I don't know if it's going to work down here because it's kind of a little bit colder down here in the basement, but I usually keep this up on my Kuan Yin in my bedroom, and I played it for the girls earlier, I've never been able to get it to friggin' work for me, right?
I felt
And
it in my
lately-
heart.
Now it's singing. Yeah.
Let's see. I'll put it by the mic and see if it'll work. It's kind of cold.
Hmm.
Oops. No. No, it's not going to work down here. It started to, but it's not going to. I do have video of it. Working really good, but it's almost like you said, like heart centers are being opened, because I literally could feel that it was vibrating, and it sounded almost like somebody singing, literally singing like a high-pitched note, like, oh, which I'm not gonna do, but
And the inner earth, the she had told me that, I mean, when they talk, it's kind of like they're singing to me versus talking. So they have a lot to do with wind spirits and even demons or demons. So
oh,
oh,
but you're feeling it too, because oh my gosh.
Mhm.
I started crying with you earlier today, Cortney. Yesterday I was talking with Summer and just started pulling with her. And that is not me. I am not a crier, okay? And I know that your whole family over there, every single one of you,
It was
including the
chaos.
non-crier, was
chaos. Because if I cry, he's usually don't do that. You know, like, no, we're not going to do emotions. Like, that's
Right.
so when I was like, the fuck's happening? What's going on?
Wow. I saw a random tear in the sky sort of this afternoon, walked into the mailbox. I had to stop for a few seconds when I see it, but it was so weird. Wow.
Yeah.
You just learned how to do that too. What, the singing bowl, honey?
Singing is how I pair my consciousness versus now if I work with a demon in ritual, I sing a certain note to pair like my consciousness with theirs temporarily versus possession.
Think about it. That is frequency. That is vibration. I'm telling you, when I was doing that earlier and I was doing it in front of my son, I'm like, you got to feel this. It was like vibrating big time, man.
It vibrated me when you sent it through there. Literally, I felt it in my heart because since the emotional few days, I've been kind of off balance. Moment I heard it, it started making me vibrate and I felt it in my chest. And I'm going,
You guys
wow.
want to hear it?
Yeah.
What I did earlier? I've got it recorded. Okay, let's see if I can do this.
Mm.
And it just went on and on and on. Yeah, you can feel it.
I had one in New York. I gotta get another one.
That's where I keep it. I don't even know if you can see it.
I love this.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Me too.
I sing for that too. Oh my God, I'm so excited right
Yeah.
now.
But she said, yes, that's what she had learned too, was the singing bowl. She got it to sing for her.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That's fantastic because I wasn't able to do it either. So,
You know what? That lady really helped me.
yeah.
But you have to apply pressure. You have to really dig it in. And I think it's like a certain area of the rim of it. Like this part, you have to make sure. And when it's on and you have to make sure that it's like flat, that your hand is flat. And oh my gosh, it just, wow. They're not that expensive. I think I got that for under $50 off of Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get me another one. I used to love using them in bells for ritual and stuff too.
Yeah. So we obviously have more of these already scheduled. You're going to see them. They're coming up soon, but We would love to have you. I don't care whether or not you have a channel. It doesn't matter. We still want to hear your story. The world wants to hear your stories. So contact me down below. We will set something up that works for all of us. It doesn't have to be on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Saturday. We'll schedule something.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. Thank you guys for coming and listening. Really, it means a lot. And I love you for being here. And stay awesome. Never doubt yourself, okay? Above anything in this world, this 3D reality, illusions is the biggest
Yes.
battle of this life. Always trust yourself, your instinct, your intuition. Go within.
Love you guys.
Love you.
Thank you for joining us.